What up, wizards? It's Dev from The Place. We like it at Magic, the spiel. Hey, everyone. We're live with a bunch of people right now on the twitch.tv. Don't you wish you were here for this? It is early access night, everybody. I don't really have 510,000 gems or 513,350 gold. I don't have those things. I don't have packs, believe it or not. This is just a stacked account that Wizards gave me to start the season. It's one day only, and we're going to play some decks here on stream with them. But first, what we're going to do is we're going to go over the jankiest combos. The jankiest combos you could do in Phyrexia, because I don't know if we're going to get to all these this season. We certainly won't tonight because there's like 5 of them. But there's some really stupid stuff that you can do thanks to this set that some people are talking about, some people aren't. And I just want to make sure that as many people are aware of some of these combos as possible, because a few of them are surprisingly kind of like okay, right? So let's take a look at one real quick, which is just stupid. Archfiend of the Dross is this 4-mana 6/6 flyer that eventually kills you. He gets 4 oil counters when he ETBs, and at the beginning of your upkeep you remove one. And then if it doesn't have any oil counters on it, you lose the game. So once it's out of oil counters, you're done, kid. But there's a fun little thing that you can do with this card in case you haven't seen this yet. And I wouldn't be surprised if you had, because it seems like a pretty janky thing that you could do during the early access event. Fateful Handoff is what you can do with Archfiend of the Dross. This costs 4 mana for sorcery. You draw cards equal to the mana value of an artifact or creature you control, and then an opponent gains control of that permanent. So sick, right? All you got to do is wait until Archfiend basically only has 1 counter left, and then you draw 4 cards and give it to your opponent. So if they can't kill it before their upkeep, they just lose the game. So, and there's actually a few ways to protect this, right? If they do go to kill it, then you can hit it with like Slip Out the Back or something, you know, just like a 1 mana phase it out card. There's a couple of other things that you can do along those lines, but I think that Slip Out the Back's probably the best way. But obviously both cards cost 4 mana. It takes until like turn 7 to take all the counters off of Archfiend, but in the meantime, you're beating their face in with a 6/6. So Fateful Handoff's more of like a plan B, really, than anything else. But when it does work, it draws you 4 cards and maybe wins you the game. Even if your opponent can kill the Archfiend, it still draws you 4. So like, this could be okay. Ties up some of their mana, whatever. So I like the combo. I actually think that it's janky. It's stupid, but it's actually kind of sick too. It's actually, there's ways to like make it work and protect it and stuff. So I don't hate this, and I kind of want to get around to playing it at some point in the future. But what other combos do we have to look at real quick? All right, everybody knows Mondrak, right? All right, so Mondrak, everybody knows what Mondrak does, right? This is the new Anointed Procession for 4 mana, same cost as Anointed Procession, but you have to pay extra white mana for it. And it's a 4/4. You can also make it indestructible by paying 1 and 2 Phyrexian white, sack 2 other artifacts or creatures. You get a counter that says indestructible. So it's a sweet little card that lots of people are doing stuff with, I'm sure, today during early access. But my favorite thing to do with this, it's not rabble-rousing. It's not stimulus package or anything like that. I know a couple of people are trying different things. I think the actual best thing to do with this is probably Skitter Battalion. Skitter Battalion is this, 9 mana, 4/4 trample haste. But it has prototype. You can play it for 5 mana. It's 2/2. When it ETBs, if you cast it, create 2 tokens that are copies of it. So if you have a Mondrak out, you'll be able to get 5 creatures out of this. And, they all have trample and haste. So whether you're paying the 9 for it, which you're probably not most of the time. But even if you just pay the 5, you get, 10 total power and toughness on the battlefield from a Mondrak. This, I think it's probably the most powerful curve out that you can do with a Mondrak. Also feeds Mondrak a little bit, because this puts 3 things onto the table at least, and with a Mondrak it puts 5. And of course, if you have Mondrak, you can sacrifice 2 artifacts or creatures, make them indestructible. This gives you an entire board. With Mondrak you get 6 things on the table, so you basically force the sweeper on the opponent, and if you're in like a bad situation board wise, this will probably catch you right back up. So really like the Mondrak Skitter Battalion. It's on curve. It puts a buttload of things onto the table all at one time. So I wouldn't be surprised if you see a little bit of that, especially considering red-white is already a decent color combination. Fable of the Mirror Breaker is already a card that works fairly well with Mondrak. So wouldn't be surprised to see these cards together, even if Skitter Beam's just like a 2-of or something like that. Let's move on to what we might do tonight. We might do this. All will be one. All right, so this is the namesake card from the set, the titular card, if you will. Gives me an excuse to say a funny word. This is 5 mana, 3 and 2 red for an enchantment. When you put one or more counters on a permanent or player, all will be one deals that much damage to target opponent, creature an opponent controls, or planeswalker an opponent controls. Now, that's a lot of text, but do note, this works with planeswalkers. Works with sagas and stuff like that too. So one thing that I think you can really juice this with, but it takes a lot of mana because you got to get it on curve. Your all will be one has to, stay out for a turn without being interacted with. So it takes a little bit, but one thing that I really, really want to do with this card is to Storm the Festival. Now, Storm the Festival can put an all will be one on the table by itself, which I think is important, but it can also put planeswalkers, 5 mana planeswalkers on the table. So if you put all will be one and say a Wrenn and 7, how many loyalty does that start with? 5, right? It starts with 5. So if I hit all will be one and Wrenn and 7 off of Storm the Festival, then suddenly I can deal 5 damage to a target just for no reason, right? If I already have my Storm the Festival out, and I hit, Saga plus Planeswalker, then I can do an untold amount of damage. Just however much loyalty plus the, the chapter counter from the Saga or whatever. So that's actually a really neat application for all will be one. Storm the Festival can help deal extra damage, affect the board state even more, or sometimes just, dome your opponent, whatever you need to do. With all will be one, and I think that this, even though it's a fair amount of mana, is another good 1-2 punch on curve. That does require probably only playing green and red because you need to double red and triple green. So I don't know if you can sneak a third color in there, but we just got the fast lands. That might make it easier. We got a ton of non-basics in this format now. So it's possible, I think. We got 3 color lands, so you might just play Naya anyway. Because, why not? You're playing green-red. So if you play Naya, you get access to a bunch of other cool 4 or 5 mana stuff. Wanderer, right? So the old Wanderer, not the new one that costs 6. You probably shouldn't play Titan of Industry in this deck because you're really only looking for stuff that Storm can hit. But I could be wrong about that. I could be wrong. This is another deck that you want to play Fable of the Mirror Breaker in anyway, probably. It ramps you to Storm. It helps with, it's good with all will be one. But it's good with Storm too. Storm can hit it at the same time as an all will be one and deal a little bit of damage. So I don't know. It's a cool interaction, and we're always looking for ways to make Storm the Festival a good card. At least I am. I'm guilty of that. So I think it's just one of the cooler all will be one interactions, But let's see what's next. We got 2 more of these. This one is going around today. I have seen this one, and I haven't seen too much of what people are going to be doing, but I think Yeoman 5 and Saffron Olive have both talked about this. Venerated Rot Priest. This costs 1 green mana. It's a 1/2 Phyrexian Druid, has Toxic 1. Here's the key text. Whenever a creature you control becomes the target of a spell, target opponent gets a poison counter. Now, I did not really catch this about the card the first time I read it. It's whenever a creature you control becomes the target of a spell, no matter what. So you can target your creatures with spells, and your opponents get poison counters. This works really, really well with Ivy Gleeful Spell Thief. This is 2 mana for a 2/1 flyer in Simic colors. Whenever a player casts a spell that targets only a single creature other than Ivy, you may copy the spell. The copy targets Ivy, so you get double poison counters. And this too is on curve. You go Rot Priest 1, Ivy 2, and hopefully you don't get interacted with, but I'm pretty sure that's a really big ask. You could back this up a turn by casting, Rot Priest on 1, or Rot Priest on 2 rather. Rot Priest on 2 and holding up something that protects it, whether it's Slip Out the Back or the new green spell that protects creatures. Forget what it's called, but I'll put it on screen here once I cut the YouTube video. But anyway, you could back up with that. On turn 3 you play Ivy again with backup, to protect this combo, and then suddenly your opponent's getting a lot of poison counters really, really fast. So I could actually see, you don't even have to attack for this to work, but if you're casting. The other thing is you punish them with poison counters by trying to interact with the combo. If they do try to remove one of your 2 guys, then you can protect it, and that puts more counters on them. So it's just this deeper and deeper in debt kind of situation for your opponent, poison counter wise, just for trying to interact at all. So I can see some decks trying to attack you down through that situation and probably winning the race. You have to keep cards in your hand, and that's kind of tough to do sometimes. And you're just like blasting through cards on turn 3 and 4 while still trying to hold up cards to protect them. So I could see some like kind of logistical issues with the deck, but it is a nice 1-2 combo, super duper low curve. You get started as quickly as possible. It's on curve 1-2. So, and then once you have the combo out, if you untap with it and play, it's probably really annoying. So I'm a little scared of this combo, but at the same time, I do think it's kind of fragile and all that. For the same reason, like Illuminator Virtuoso never became a really important card in true, big boy standard play. I fear that this deck probably won't either, but it could get very annoying. It could get extremely annoying really fast. It's got Slip Out the Back, Shore Up, not Fateful Absence. Oh, goodness. Why can't I remember the name? Fading Hope. That's the name of the 1-mana blue bounce spell. And if you bounce either one of the key creatures, you'll get to scry too. So just a sweet little thing. Probably what a lot of people are doing with early access today is testing out that deck. It's probably the jankiest thing you possibly do. So let's look next at the last combo that I want to explore. And this one is more of a general combo. This Kadama of the West Tree. I'm just reminding you that this card exists in like every other modified thing. Like Thundering Raiju. It cares about modified creatures, right? Now, Kadama gives modified creatures you control trample, and whenever a modified creature you control does combat damage to a player, search your library for a basic land, battlefield tap, shuffle up. So this, people have been trying to make it work since Kamigawa, came into being. And sometimes it does. It's actually not a bad card. It's been on the cusp for a while. It's on the edge of glory. And I'm hanging by a moment with you, but hasn't quite made it. But you know what could make it okay? Oil counters. Just oil counters in general, because there's a lot of good, let's look at red and green specifically. There's a lot of good 1-drops, to keep the curve super low that make this all right. Exuberant Fuseling gets bigger for each oil counter on it. And whenever stuff dies, you put an oil counter on it. Works with treasure tokens and stuff. Trading Reservoir, that puts an oil counter on stuff every turn if you want it. Free from Flesh, this is interesting. A creature like Exuberant Fuseling, and another one we'll look at in a second. This basically gives the creature +4/+4. 2 of it till end of turn, but still 1 mana for +4/+4 on a guy like Fuseling. Or, for that matter, let me find him. Evolving Adaptive, a creature I'm really excited about. This might make mono green playable, and a couple of other cards in the set. There's like 3-4 cards that make mono green more playable, but this one especially. Great little 1-drop here. If you've never played with Experiment 1, it's a great card. This is basically that. But you can proliferate it and stuff. And I guess you could proliferate Experiment 1. But in any case, this is just an amazing little 1-drop that gets to 3-4 power like pretty easily in a lot of decks. The thing about it is, if you have Kodama, then you can use stuff like, Fuseling and the green 1-drop to really good effect because they are modified. They come modified on turn 1 for 1 mana. Vindictive Flamestoker is another one that it doesn't come with oil counters on it, but it can easily get oil counters, and it's just a 1-drop. Sawblade Scamp. This can also easily get oil counters and stuff if you want to do that. But mostly I think you want to focus on these super aggressive creatures that come down with oil counters on them. And there's more than just these 1-drops, but those are the big ones. Armored Scrap Gorger is another one. That cares about oil counters, is really low on the curve, and gets relatively big, helps fix your mana and stuff like that. So casting a turn 3 Thundering Raiju seems pretty good some of the time. So, all these like little oil counter 1 and 2 drops with Kodama and Thundering Raiju could actually make the backbone of like a really good red-green aggro deck with a fairly low curve. So that's the last thing I wanted to look at, is just to remind you that Kodama exists. And oil counters and modifications. So that is about it for the janky combos. There's a couple of other ones that I'll kind of leave under my sleeve for now, and we might discuss and explore a little bit later in the season here on stream or on the YouTube channel or whatever. But for now, YouTube folk, Twitch folks, stick around, stay here. But for now, YouTube folks, basically done with this one. Make sure to let us know about any janky combos that you found from the set down there in the comments section and stuff. Always, all ears, a good time right now at the beginning of the season to put our heads together, figure out what we can figure out. But if you want to join us live for stuff like this, it's twitch.tv/SBMTGDev. And if you want to help pick what decks we do this season throughout the whole season and what other content we do, lists and blah, blah, then go over to Patreon, shoot me $1 a month. It's patreon.com/SBMTG. Thanks in advance for your support. But aside from that, I'm pretty much done over this onezo, so I'll catch you cats later. I'm Deb from the place. Thanks for watching, Wizards. Spread love and be kind.